You personally, just wondering, like, if you look back on your life, what was like one of the best days and what was one of the worst days of your life?
Yeah. It's the same day, actually. I don't know. I've got a lot of best day, worst day things. The day that if I was to pick one, probably the day that I found my wife was one of the best days and the worst days. We dated for a while, and she actually moved to San Diego, and I had my thing, and we just kind of just drifted apart. And then a few years later, we were planning on reconnecting, and I'd always thought I would marry her. I was awesome, and I had just got back from Alaska, actually. And I got back, and we were planning on, she'd moved back to Nevada, and we were going to meet up. And I literally am unpacking my stuff from it was probably like a 2-week trip in Alaska. I'm unpacking my stuff, and my phone rings, and it's her sister. And I hadn't heard from her sister in a couple of years. And she goes, "Have you heard about Danielle?" No, what happened? I said, "She's missing. She went for a hike and no one can find her." And at this point, I'm like, this isn't good. This is the high desert. It's like, how long has she been gone? I think it was like 2 days at this point. So if you don't know much about the high desert, it's high elevation but dry. And so what you get is, in the daytime, you get really super hot temperatures. And then at night, it's close to freezing. So it's a pretty inhospitable place. So I called my brother and my friend Joe, and I told them what happened. I said, I need to get out. I'm going out there to see what I can do. And they came over. I loaded up my pack like I was going hunting. Spotting scope, tripod, binocular optics, some mountain house meals, a light sleeping bag. Just loaded up my pack and drove out there. It was about 2 hours away, a pretty remote area, near a pretty rural town, not very many people. And we pull in, it's just about evening time. We get up to the search and rescue, kind of like base camp. And one of the guys had recognized me and was like, normally they don't let people they kind of like, no one go up here because we're doing a search and rescue effort. The Black Hawk helicopter had been searching in this canyon for the day and had to return back to base. And so I was pretty much like, I'm gonna go and see what we can do, because they were coming back for the evening to essentially take a break. And so I said, okay, well, let me know like what was going on. They said, so they took us up. They said the dogs had run up, followed a trail like scenting dogs, gone up to these like cliff base area, turned around and come back. And they're asking like, well, how far would she be? A mile, couple miles. And she trained for marathons. In all our time hiking all over the world, we never once stayed on a trail. They were kind of in their mind, oh, she'll be on a trail and she'll be within a couple of miles. I said, she could be within 20 miles and probably no trail. So the dogs had gone up and come back, and then they did it again, gone up and come back. So they were under the assumption that she had walked up, walked back, and then had possibly been taken. There was like a report of some vehicle leaving. Someone had seen her on the trail with no gear, just no water, nothing, just running clothes or whatever. So I just loaded up my pack, me and my brother and my friend, and we went with one of the search and rescue guys in his little vehicle. And so we drove up, and they decided, hey, before the sun was starting to go down at this point. He said, they were like, well, we're going to go work up where the dogs were. Maybe the guys didn't really work in the cliffs or anything. And so we're going to go up there and look in there. I said, okay. So then before on the drive out there, I told myself, I said, I'm not going to listen to anything anyone says because they haven't found her. Whatever their assumption is wrong. So I'm just going to do what feels right to me. And so the guy is driving up and he's like, okay, well, this is where the road ends. And it's starting to get dark at this point, and I see this basin up on the left. And I think to myself, that's where I would go. So I say, okay, just drop me here. And I said, I'm not coming back until I find her. And I meant it. I was leaving in the middle of the night. It was a moonless night. You aren't going to find anyone in the dark. But I thought, I'm just going to hike as far as I can, and I'm just going to be ready in the morning, maybe. I don't know. So I walk up the trail, and I'm just going straight up the mountain. And now at this point, I'm walking. It's dark, I'm flashlighting around, and it just feels hopeless. I mean, I honestly felt like, and then all the thoughts go in your mind. Am I going to never find her? Am I going to walk up on a dead body? Like, I'm thinking to myself, how could I recover after that? Or like, just so unknown, and just like this horrible feeling. I'm literally in the middle of this mountain. It just felt hopeless. I'm literally just praying, like, give me a sign. Like, this just doesn't feel like it could work. And I look down and I see it's a track, but it's steep and it's just like a scuff. And I think, God, it just didn't feel right. There's a lot of deer tracks in the area, but this track, it wasn't a full track. It was just the way that the dirt was moved in my flashlight looked wrong. I followed it, and then it disappeared, and it got up on this bench, and I just had this weird feeling. And I saw a light at the top of the mountain. And before I'd left, I'd asked for a FLIR, like to get a FLIR system there, infrared.
Okay.
Because in the desert, it heats up the rocks and they get really hot. But as it cools down, you need to use it first thing in the morning while it's still dark. Because then once the temperature off the rocks is cooled, you might be able to pick up some heat signatures or something. I thought maybe some kind of heat. And it's this big basins there with some pretty steep cliffs. I was thinking, did she fall off a cliff? Who knows? But I thought, well, maybe that FLIR system. I saw a light a ways away. I thought, well, maybe they'd come up with a FLIR system. So I radio my brother and I say, we're going to check this light out. I get up there, and it just happened to be some random people out there. They had no clue someone was missing. I showed them a picture on my cell phone. Said, hey, if you see anybody, they're like, okay, cool. We'll keep an eye out. So I radio my brother and friend, and I'm like, man, this just doesn't feel promising. They're like, I don't know, we've been looking around. Maybe we just save our energy and time for the morning. We set up and we just use our optics and try to spot in the morning, because it's not real timbered, but it is kind of broken country. Maybe we can spot her. So I think, okay. And I thought about it. I said, I'm just going to go back to this one spot that I just got to go check it out one more time. So I work back to that spot. And I get back in there, and it's dark. And I'm just like, I go, Danielle, this is Remi. If you can hear me, I am not leaving till I find you. And I'm sitting there, it's quiet, no moon. And in the dark, I hear, Remi? And it was so faint. I honest to God thought it was just my head playing tricks on me. And I take my radio out and I radio the other two guys. And I said, I heard her. Get a medical team up here now. I'm turning my radio off. Because if she yells out one more time, and that's all I get, I mean, it's just this big basin. You have no clue where that noise is coming from. And if she makes another noise and that radio is going off, I shut the radio off, and I flicked they saw my light, or I had my light. I assumed they could have seen it if they got into a place where they could see me. And I yelled out again, nothing. Well, I just kind of started taking off in a direction that I thought the noise was coming from. But I honestly thought it was like way across in this canyon where before it got dark, I'd seen this band of cliffs. So I get to like run a little bit, but I'm trying to essentially running quiet, like I was stalking something, because I need to hear, but I need to move fast just in case the sound goes off again. And I yell out again, and I hear Remi, and I flip my light on, and she's right below me on the same side of the hill as me in the dark, just completely confused. And I'm like, oh my gosh, no way. So I run up to her, and I'm thinking like, oh, hug, this is great. And she had a look on her face like she had no clue where she was, who she was.
Wow.
Just out of it. I was like, do you know who I am? I think so. Do you know who you are? I don't know. Like, just like scared and out of it. And so I turn the radio back on. I call my brother and Joe, and I'm like, I got her up here. At that point, somebody had called the EMS and search and rescue and sheriff and what have you, and they got a vehicle. I think my buddy had actually ran down to the base camp where some of the guys were sleeping and said, Remi heard her, we got to go. And the guy's like, yeah, somebody thought they heard something, but it could have been a mountain lion. We were just going to save our energy for the morning search. They had this little like UTV. This is like the best part of this story to me. So my buddy Joe goes, he's just like had enough. He goes, I'm commandeering your vehicle. And then like gets in the vehicle and rips down the road and meets the EMS guys. And when the sheriff gets there, he goes, where'd you get that? He's like, just follow me. They end up making it to the top of the mountain. And then there's like a road on one of these ridges, like a pretty rough road, but they were able to get that side by side up there. And then my brother ran up from the bottom, met up with us, and we just kind of, tried to make her comfortable, tried to give her water. Like she took a sip of water and like, spit it out. She's like, it's like fire. Like just not having any water for a long period of time.
Wow.
It was a really weird experience because I'd never seen someone in that state. And you hear these stories all the time, like snowmobilers get lost and they're dead, naked, in the cold, frozen to death. And your brain essentially shuts down at some point. Doesn't really, what to do, but you just can't do it.
Wow.
But yeah, we got her back, got her to the hospital, rehydrated, and now we're married.
I guess it's hard to say no to the proposal after
yeah,
that,
exactly. Right? I can always hold that over her head. Like, remember that time I saved your life?
And so
you sure I have to take the trash out?
I'm sure you still do.
Yeah.
So she went off running and kind of got lost and then got dehydrated and then...
Yeah, she hadn't been feeling good. Thought, I'll go out for whatever, maybe that'll make me feel better, but she hadn't really slept or eaten before that. I think from what I can gather is went out, got probably heat stroke or some kind of whatever, woke up and had no clue which way to go, where she was. So she just said, okay, I'm just gonna stay here. She knew that much. I think she said there was a little, some kind of like, she tried to drink something, but she just decided to stay where she was. She heard the helicopter fly over and was trying to flag it down, but they didn't see her.
Wow.
And then, yeah, which is good. Like, if you are lost, generally the people that stay put are the people that survive, unless you accidentally walk the right direction. Sometimes it is an accident. If you have no clue which way to go, you're picking one way out of a million options and hoping that that's the right way. But
if it wasn't for you, though, would she have made it?
I don't think so. She doesn't think so.
It's crazy.
I don't know, though. You never know. But
so
yeah,
all of those skills that you learned out on the hunt made it happen that night. I mean, that's needle in a haystack type stuff.
It is,
you could find her at night. I mean,
I think it's one of those things where who knows? A lot of, like, I go out there and you do essentially that same thing. You get good at finding things that are really hard to find. And some of it, when you do it a lot, you might not really even know why you do certain things. It might feel like an instinct. And maybe it's just a bunch of ones and zeros in your head and your brain being a supercomputer, saying, I've experienced this, I've experienced this, I've experienced this, and taking it all in at once and processing something that you really can't even, is faster than your thought could even think. And I think that that has a lot to do with it. And that is a lot of the instinct that you get, that time in the field, the primal instinct of how do I find something to survive, and just being able to tap into that.
Yeah. And you trust your instincts.
I do.
That's so
Yeah.
powerful.
Yeah, because I think that by being out there enough, you get a sense of a feeling that I almost attribute to just your brain processing things that your mind, it's just too fast for you to think it.
Yeah.
You know it, and it just manifests as a feeling because you've been doing it for so long. And once I start to just say, like, trust my gut, even before that bear attack happened, I had a bad feeling. And I think it was the bad feeling, it makes sense. We did something stupid. We stopped below a cache of meat that I would normally never do. Of course, that's where the odds. Now you have that feeling, and then you go, no, let's not eat here. Let's eat somewhere else, and then nothing happens. And you just think, well, whatever. You're being paranoid or whatever. Because if you just keep going with that, you might rely on those instincts of survival, those instincts that you've gained over time spent in the field, and you just let your brain do the processing for you, and you don't have to think about it. So when you think about it, you talk yourself out of a lot of good things,
Yeah.
a lot of good ideas.
I think most people don't trust their instincts.
Yeah.
You know, we always just try to logically figure it out, or we have so many inputs that we're like, my mom said this, or everybody says I should do this, or the right thing to do is this, that we don't even know we have an instinct sometimes. It's taken me a long time to trust them, and I still got a ways to go.